Hello, my name is April. I'm from Tiger Solar Power. I'm here today to run you through some information on the GoodWe SEMS Portal and how it can help inform your energy savings and usage. So when you first access the portal and log into your plant, this is the dashboard main view. It does give quite a bit of information, and we're going to run through part by part to show you how you can best utilize that information. Everyone's plant is going to look slightly different based on your panel orientation, based on the size of your system, and based on whether you are a solar only plant or solar and battery. We can see in the upper left-hand side here that this is a system with an east-west orientation, and it's a 12.32 kilowatt system. Your system may look slightly different, and that's going to be reflected in the data that we're going to run through. The production will differ. Just to run through the basics of what you can see on your plant, you can see your created date in the left here. That is usually when the system was first commissioned or first installed. Below this, 99% of the time, you'll be a residential plant, unless you might count as a business or something along those lines. Below that, the PV capacity. That is the panel capacity of your system. So usually this number will indicate the panels cumulatively installed on your roof. This number is usually slightly higher than your inverter capacity. So your inverter capacity reflects your max generation capabilities. Panel capacity installed is usually higher than inverter capacity, just to make sure that you are maximizing the usage of your inverter. Below that field, you've got your address and a weather report just here. Coming across the top, you can take note of the working status up here. We do always want that status to be working. If this ever shows offline or fault, it may be noting an issue with the system. Offline usually indicates simply that the system has disconnected from your home internet. Tiger Solar does have online guides available on our website to help you with reconnection if the system does ever fall offline. If the status ever shows fault, it is time to reach out to us at Tiger Solar and we can help look into what seems to be going on. So going further, the capacity that you see below this graph is a reflection of what your system is producing at this moment. So it is getting on into the afternoon as at the time of this recording, almost 3 o'clock. So the system is producing just over 2 kilowatts at the moment. Further across again is the PV generation today. So this is a recording of what your system has generated up to this point. So now at almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this system has produced up to 34 kilowatts, which for a reasonable weathered winter day, that's excellent generation for this system. So the income today is a reflection of a dollar value based on a general feed-in tariff value that we at Tiger Solar input into the back end of your system. Usually we input somewhere between about 2 and 4 cents on the value of your system. So this is a reflection of a dollar value on everything that the system has generated today. This is not what's going to be reflected on your energy bills, however, as that would assume that everything that you've generated has been fed in, and that's not going to be the case, as you'll always be using some measure of your solar power. The other figures to the right, total generation and total income, are potentially slightly less useful for yourselves, the end customers, as they reflect a total monetary value on what your system has generated. Again, it is a good thing to note, but might not be 100% useful, as these aren't going to be the figures reflected in your feed-in tariff on your bill. Coming down further is our daily power generation. So this is a graph of your power generated throughout the day. It has been a bit of a cloudy day here today, so the system generation has been a little bit up and down. It is a nice sunny afternoon though, so we are starting to see a smoother generation as the system tapers off for the evening. At some points today, you can track back. If you hover your mouse over these values, you can see that at some points today, the system has pretty much reached its top capacity of 10 kilowatts. In the date window above, you can scroll back through each day's generation. So yesterday was a slightly better day. We had a bit of much smoother generation. This date you can use to navigate back to any point in the system's lifespan, so even back into last year, and it'll show you exactly what that system was generating on that day. So coming across into generation and income, the tab to the right there. This one is a bit more handy when looking at end of month or end of quarter energy bills. You can at a glance see multiple days of solar generation. Hovering over will give you the total figure generated on that day. Even further into monthly generation, this is a good reading for comparing against monthly or quarterly electricity bills. So for example, if you received an energy bill for June, July, August, up to the end of this period, you can see the total cumulative kilowatts generated over those months. Now, this figure can be handy when comparing against feed-in tariff that you see on those bills. So what you can do is total up the feed-in tariff over that billing period, total up the total generation for your billing period, subtract the feed-in tariff from your total generation, and it will assist you in informing how much solar power has been used in the house as well. Further on, you can even check out a yearly generation figure. As the lifespan of the system goes on, this can be handy in comparing against the efficiency of the system as it ages. This system itself is quite new, so we're only on the up and up at this stage. Coming down the page further, we have a bit more information regarding your specific system type. So in the top field here, you can see your serial number of your inverter, which can be handy for fault finding or contacting GoodWe. You have your model number. So that will help show the capacity, total generating capacity of your inverter. Serial number listed again, and that total kilowatt figure on the model of your inverter. Down further, we can see your AC voltage, AC current, and AC frequency. AC voltages are looking good. Generally, we don't want to see these exceed 250 volts. Coming across to the right, we have the inner working temperature of the unit. Good to know, especially as if we approach those long run of summer days where weather can get above 40. We do see that go too high. It may be time to look into something like a shade cover for your inverter. Down further, your DC voltage and current, so we can individually monitor each string of your inverter. Below that again is your RSSI value. So that reflects the internet connectivity strength to your inverter. If you do note multiple offline events, it's a good idea to take a look at this number and see if it's hovering around the 50% or below mark. If the internet connectivity strength isn't high enough, you will see repeated dropout events. It might be a good time to start looking into if this is the case for you, moving your router closer, or potentially even optioning a Wi-Fi extender to place closer to your inverter, so you can ensure that you have that consistent monitoring visibility on your GoodWe system. You can delve even further into the information on your inverter by moving to your curve to the right here. So into the drop down, the power is just what your system is generating. We have voltage readings, and now we come to UA. So UA is a reflection of the grid voltage incoming to your property that your inverter is reading. So on a medium to moderate winter's day, the voltage on this system is sitting around the 254 to 252 volts, which is excellent. At times, it is much more common during the summer. You can see what we call a sawtoothing graph on your system's production. This can be caused by high incoming grid voltage. Incoming grid voltage should not exceed 254 volts in South Australia. It is mandated to remain below. If grid voltage incoming comes above that rating, your system will actually start to derate itself to protect its internal workings. If that does happen, and you consistently see this, the system is working as intended, but it is time to raise the issue to SA Power Networks. If you do see this sawtoothing graph performance, feel free to reach out to us at Tiger Solar, and we can certainly assist further. So this is a run through of a PV only plant. So there is no home kit or battery connected to this one, but we can actually navigate over to a plant where the home kit is visible. And that will show us a bit more data on the load and export on the plant. So if we come to this plant here, quite similar looking, but on the daily performance, there is quite a bit more information. So Each of these colors indicates a different element of the installation. So in blue, we can see the PV generation over the day. You can see what has been exported to the grid, as well as the loads in the home. So again, if you track across this plant, you can see that because the loads in the home are relatively low, this was early this afternoon, most of the generation is being exported to the grid. In this situation, you'd imagine that there are no real large appliances on, might just be base loads, so something like fridges, a couple of lights, something along those lines. Following down further, your home kit allows you some further visibility. So you can see here, the system is generating 6.6 kilowatts at the moment. At this very moment, the home is only requiring 2.3 of those kilowatts. So the remaining generation is being exported to the grid. This would be an excellent site to consider battery, because when you track back through the system's generation, you can see that quite often of an afternoon, the loads in the home are quite low. So there is a decent amount of solar being exported to the grid, and that is a repeated pattern. A battery would be highly beneficial to a site like this to capture all of that excess generation to be used when you are home of an evening, where you can see the solar has tapered off for the evening, but there are consistent loads throughout the night. So following along this grid here, we can note where the solar generation kicks off in the morning in blue. So the system ramps up for the day. There is a little bit of usage in the home of a morning. So this is today's performance. Again, we have had a little bit of a cloudy day today, so the system generation a little bit up and down. You will see that reflected across the board. But you can see in blue here where the solar system kicked off generation for the morning, a little bit of household usage in yellow from the loads, and quite a bit of export going on as the afternoon wears on. We navigate back to a previous day on this site. We can see that this is a good example of export limiting. So because there aren't many loads going on in the home, the export limit of 5 kilowatts comes into play. So your system will move up to 5 kilowatts of generation and then coast along at that limit until there are more power demands in the home, in which case it can spike up as well to support those loads. Your home might also be subject to something called flexible export. That is an export limit implemented by SA Power Networks, essentially to assist with grid control. There will be some homes that are export limited to 1.5 kilowatts. So for example, on this home, if there were no loads on in the house, you would see the generation on the system drop down to probably a little bit above 1.5 kilowatts. So somewhere in this realm under your 2 kilowatt bar graph. Usually flexible exports affect homes more in the summertime. If you'd like to check your home for flexible export eligibility or how much flexible export limiting might affect you, we'll include a link in the description to access the checking tool that SA Power Networks has provided on their website. If there was a battery installed at the home, not one on this site, but it would add an extra grid draw that would be called a battery state of charge. It will show you a reflection of how the system charges up in the morning and then discharges in the evening. On a site like this, you'd probably reach full charge by about mid-morning, and then you'd see the home start to draw on that battery capacity throughout the evening and afternoon. The grid draw would look something like a bell curve on a site like this, as it does on most homes. This has been a quick run through of the SEMS portal. If you do have any questions at any time, feel free to reach out to us at Tiger Solar Power. We do have a dedicated online customer portal for access as well. Otherwise, we are reachable via phone and email. As I've mentioned, we do have online resources, including Wi-Fi guides and an FAQ page. Feel free to have a read of those and see if they might assist in answering any of your questions. Thank you so much.